Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be rebuilding Monaco. Obviously a team that does play in the French league, a team that is definitely not favourite to win it by any means of the imagination, a team that is quite short on players by the looks of things as well from what I've seen, but hopefully within 5 years we can bring some players in, get rid of some players that we don't want, and hopefully make them the best team in France. Before we do get into the first season though, guys, I do want to take some time to shout out Barry Axel. He's actually going to be the first person to join the channel as a member. If you guys are interested in joining at any time, basically a member entitles you to have access to certain perks on the channel, such as emotes, subscription badges, and things like that in the live chat. Also, that I do offer some, you know, sort of extra bonuses in there that all tiers sort of vary. Obviously, it is completely voluntary. You guys don't feel like you have to, because obviously a subscription is more than enough. And I'm never a YouTuber that does sort of like to plug this stuff, but since someone has joined, I would like to make it out there in public knowledge. Obviously, you know, if you guys ever, you know, want some access to cool emotes and stuff like that, then it is an option. But let's get into the first season and hopefully start this rebuild off with a good season. So let's get into the first season of transfers. Before we do break this down though, guys, please do drop this video a like and be sure to comment on any teams that you want to see in the future, and also do hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The support recently has been absolutely phenomenal and I do appreciate it, I really do. But let's get into this then. A lot of these we couldn't bring in too many players basically because we didn't have a big budget, and also, surprisingly, a lot of players didn't want to come and actually play for us. Obviously, I assume if you go into the French league, especially the big players, they want to go to PSG, right? But two players we could bring in with our budget was going to be Thomas Estevez, who we did actually bring in, for 3.2 million from Porto, simply because we only had one backup fullback, which is an issue, because obviously, you know, ideally, you want a backup left back and right back, which now we do have, but we didn't have that. But now with this guy, again, is he world class? No. He didn't cost a lot, which is one of the things which we did need to sort of really pay attention to because we didn't have a lot of money. But he is a breakthrough prospect. He has got, you know, he's got potential. He's not going to be incredible, but he's decent, even if he stays as a backup for the whole time. He is happy being a breakthrough prospect and not being a guaranteed starter, and to be honest, is more than good enough for this league, being honest. So that is why we brought him in. We then go to one of my favourite clubs, which is Roma, simply because of Mourinho. I love Mourinho, as you guys probably know by now. 5.7 million, so very cheap for this guy. He's actually valued over triple that, and I honestly really like this guy. He's 24, so he's not like young. Basically, the issue with this Monaco side, we've got great players in the team, we really do, but the depth is absolutely atrocious. Like, the midfield, there isn't much depth going. As I said, the right back, there wasn't much depth. There's not a lot of depth anywhere on the pitch, and unfortunately, we've only been able to bring in 2 players this window. A lot of transfers did fall through. I tried to go in for the likes of Lo Celso, Coquelin. None of them were interested in joining the side like Monaco, so it is difficult, and I think that we are going to have a good season and sort of establish ourselves as a club to bring in better players. But this guy will do a good job. He's happy being a squad player, so there's no pressure if he doesn't instantly get into the team. And overall, his attributes are reasonably good. He's reasonably tall as well, and he's not too old, so he's got a few years at the club to develop and potentially get into the first team and stay there. But if we have a quick look then, obviously a lot of these other ones, I'm not going to talk about the players that we've done before I got here, because obviously it wasn't me that made the decisions, and all of these people, the only person that we did sell off our own accord was Martins, purely because we're not playing a formation with wingers. So I thought we'll offload him since he's not going to get game time. Now, I want to do a big shout out to Hood Gaming for this tactic. I like to use other people's tactics when I do rebuilds. All my rebuilds before, I've been using my own tactics, and it's fine, but I never then really get to test out other tactics, because when I'm making videos, like a lot of my stuff is going to be tactic videos, which obviously I make myself, and then when I even live stream, I use my own tactics. So it's nice to see what the community sort of has, and you know, this is a very good tactic, and, you know, hopefully this can give us a little bit of glory. So, although my channel is 10 times smaller than him, by some miracle you've not heard of Hood Gaming and you've heard of me, definitely go and check him out because he's a great guy. But, as you can see here, the team isn't actually too bad. If we sort of filter this to the best 11, Dwyer actually gets right in there, which is kind of good to see. But we've got Lecomte in goal, we've got Aguirre, Diassi, Badeshilo, I think that's how you say that. Enrique, who I have used a reasonable amount in this game, to be honest with you. Dwyer, Fofana, Minamino, which I believe is He's actually contracted, which is interesting. I think he actually come here very recently. Golovin, who's a very, very good player. Ben Yedder and Volland. Now, the thing that worries me about this is, obviously, we've got 29. We've got 31. How old's Golovin? 25, he's fine. But we do have quite an aging squad in some areas. Other areas is really good. Is this team good enough to win the league? No. I don't think this team's good enough to win the French league. I don't think we will win the French league in the first season. We're only sort of 3 games in, so don't pay attention to this. But I think money is needed for this team purely because the players, a lot of it is average. The front three is very good, but the rest of it is average, being honest. And I think that we're going to need a couple of windows to adapt, to bring in new players. And unfortunately, in the first season, we were given next to nothing. So this first season might be a bit rough. I know I'm not going to spoil it, but I have got a tactics video coming out where I did a test in the French league, not with this side, and Monaco had a bit of a howler of a season. So I'm starting to understand why that possibly was the reason for it, because their squad's not actually ridiculously strong. But hopefully we can get into the first season. Like I said, we're only 3 games in, so I'll come back to you once we've completed the first season. But hopefully I'll come back to you with at least a top 4 finish. So then, guys, that is going to be season 1 simulated. And we've been given a reasonable budget, a very reasonable budget, to be honest. Because obviously you've got to take into account that you can do installments as well. So we've been given £87 million, which is a lot of money. And that tells me, hopefully, we've done a reasonable job. The one thing, we've not been sacked. So I'm assuming we've had a reasonable season. Let's have a little look. Okay. Do you know what? I'll take it. I'll take that very happily because, like I said, I've done a little sort of tactic tester with a team in France. And Monaco, I'm just going to say that won't ruin the video. They finished 7th. So to finish 2nd is very good. I was not expecting to win the league. I'm not expecting to win the league for the first 3 seasons, to be honest with you, because PSG are a powerhouse and they're going to be strengthening them twice as much as I can afford to do every window. Now, in the cups, wow. Okay, so we lost the Champions League path playoff against Benfica. Bit disappointed about that. We lost in the quarterfinals of the Coupe de France against Strasbourg and the Europa League quarterfinals against Leicester. So very, very poor when it comes to cups. I'm going to be honest. I would have definitely expected us to do better in the French Cup here. But obviously, we are going to be qualified for Champions League. So, I mean, we don't have to do the whole path playoff this time, which is a lot better. We will go through some of the stats then. We have got the likes of, actually, what have I done here? What have I done here? We need to go to team stats, don't we? There we go. So, we are the 2nd best at scoring goals, 115, fair play. The 7th best at conceding, not the best there with 48. Quite a few red cards, which isn't good to see. Ben Yedder getting 38 goals. We've got Badashil there with a 7.46 highest match rating. And most assists are spread across 2 players. If we go into the squad then. So, goals. 38 from Ben Yedder, a player who I knew has that in his locker. He's a sensational player. All you FIFA guys out there always bang on about Ben Yedder. So, you know, that's, to be honest, that's where I got to know him from, was FIFA back in the day. 28 from Boudou, obviously a striker who is very young and a player that we do actually have contracted to us. So that is going to be the future of Monaco, or at least one of the striker spots. So that's quite refreshing to see. Actually scoring more than Volland there as well. We've got Jesus Christ, we've got a centre-half coming up here with 17 goals, showing that, you know, some set pieces, we must have been quite deadly. Diop there, also coming up with 16, and Golovin coming up with 14. Assists, we're looking at 21 for Golovin, 21 for Diop, 15 for Lucas, 12 for Vanderson, 11 for Ben Yedder, and we've got 11 for Agulia. I'm really bad at pronouncing some names. I do apologise, guys. Highest match rating, obviously, we discussed. What are some of the worst performers that have played a lot of games? This guy's played quite a few. That is going to be Marapat. Okay, obviously, he's definitely a backup centre-half. Overall, then, the sort of key players, I wouldn't actually say no one had a real slap-happy season. Like, no one was really bad. I guess our left-back would be the worst-rated player. But, you know, judging by where we finished, there was no one that really must have done anything too much wrong. I mean, 2nd place in the first season. A lot of you guys always, especially on tactic videos, you know, you think I use the strongest team and stuff like that. But in this scenario, Monaco, especially from what I've seen on this game, they're definitely not favourites to win it. And there's a lot of teams which you could favour above them to finish higher. like, you know, your Marseille, your Lyon, who again have had quite poor seasons, and Lille actually having an awful season in 14th. But to be honest, first season, next to no signings. A couple players did come in, obviously, who seem to have settled in all right. And I'll take second place any day of the week. But let's get into the second season of transfers, and hopefully we can strengthen quite a bit with this money. So let's get into season 2 of the transfers then, shall we? And we have spent big, but we've spent well and smartly. We did have to offload our Miklia Silva and also Barreca. Barreca, our backup left back, didn't want to sign and stay at the club. So I got whatever I could for him because he was going to go on the free. There is another midfielder. I must say the name slipped out my memory, but he also wants to leave. So he's going to be going on the free. Unfortunately, I couldn't sell him. He was only a sort of backup player though. But we have spent very well this window. We managed to bring in one of my favourite players, which is Haidara from RB Leipzig, a fantastic player. And if I'm right, we only paid 25 million for him. He's going to get right into the team, or definitely one of the leading candidates to get into the team. He's honestly fantastic. Important player, worth obviously double what we paid for him. He's only 24. His attributes are absolutely incredible. I'll say the only down thing, which sometimes people get put off by, is his height, but that's not really an issue for me personally. He can play a variety of roles in the midfield, so if there's any injuries, he can cover them. And like I said, at the age of 24, I mean, it's perfect. I guess the only other thing which is a downside to this league and signing players like Haidara is because obviously you're only allowed 4 people that are from Europe, that aren't from Europe, sorry. So he will take up one of these slots. So going forward, like obviously, if I decide to bring in some superstar that's not from Europe, I might be forced to offload him or something like that. But definitely, I don't think that's going to happen because I really like playing with him. And then we also go to Milan and we bring in Kalu there for 20.5 million, just because we have got quite an old backup sort of centre-back who didn't have the best season and also hasn't got much time in his contract left. So I thought, why not bring in someone who's an absolute beast? And I know this guy is. He's 22. To be honest, he'll probably get into the first team. And if he doesn't this season, he'll definitely be a regular starter in the next season. Worth double what we paid for him again. This is what I mean by when I say I think we've done good business. We're paid next to nothing for some players that are worth a lot more, and it's really good. He can also play as a fullback, as that shows, but he will be playing as a centre-back for us unless he needs to be played there for backup. But again, a very good player, 22 years old, obviously French, so no issues registering him as well. And I just think it's a great option to have. We then go and we also, we sign another player here, actually, who's obviously not from Europe, and a player that I've not used on Football Manager. For 26 million from Juventus, it is going to be Weston McKennie, a player, again, who has got fantastic ability, fantastic potential, and everything about him. His attributes are honestly nuts. 6'1" in the midfield as well. Again, a player that can play in a mixture of positions in that midfield. So if there's, sorry about that, I don't know what that was. A player that can play a mixture of positions in midfield. So it's like, this is the reason I like signing players like that, is because if there's a certain injury in the team and they're out for a few months, then maybe McKennie can play in a position which necessarily isn't his favourite, but he can play it. And that's why I sign people like that, because it's handy to have them. Also fairly determined on there as well. But if you look at some of his attributes at the age of 23, very, very impressive. We then go and sign. Now, the reason I've signed another goalkeeper is because our first team goalkeeper is getting on, and also our backup was on loan, who was a decent backup from Bayern, I believe, who was Nubel or Nubel, I think that's how you say that. So we go to Trabzonspor there. I'm really bad at pronouncing names. We then go and get Kakir. From here, a 4-star ability goalkeeper, again, 26. So in terms of goalkeeping ages, very, very young. You could honestly say he's got 10 years and he can still be at the club, because obviously goalkeepers do play on until quite a late age in the modern game. Worth quite a bit more than we paid for him again. A fairly developed keeper already, because obviously he is mid-20s, but 26 isn't old to sign a goalkeeper, and for that price tag, no queries from me whatsoever. And then the last signing, but definitely not the least, a bit expensive for a backup, but he was one of the best options we could get that wanted to join, is going to be Matthias Viña from Roma for 19.7 million. Again, a player that has got a little bit of ability and possibly could even fight for that first team position one day. Worth a little bit more than what we paid for him as well, to be fair. But again, his attributes are really well balanced. Nothing stands out incredibly. Work rate's good, I suppose. Teamwork, stamina's decent. But definitely going to be a backup to Enrique. But it was a position that we needed. We just lost a player that we couldn't sell really for a lot. So we have had to invest in an area that really wasn't expected. But To be honest, I think what we've done this window is phenomenal. You look, we spent 108 million and we've brought in so many. We've brought in 5 really good players. And if we go to the tactics page right now and we go into best 11, there we go. That is pretty much how I thought it was going to line up. So we have instantly got the new goalkeeper in goal. Kalou comes in and starts as well. So does Vigna, actually, recommended to start alongside of Bashil there and Aguilar there. Fofana, McKennie, Haidara, Golovin, Ben Yedder and Volland. Obviously, next season, it is going to look very likely, and you guys can probably picture this without even me telling you, that the key thing we need to start to do next season is to either, because Ben Yedder will be getting on, so we need to probably find a replacement for one of these two. Obviously, one of the positions is already occupied because Brazou is actually a very good player. He had a decent season last season as well. And then going forward, I'm not entirely sure, possibly really strengthen the fullbacks if they don't, you know, develop into world-class fullbacks. But overall, I'm so happy with how we've strengthened this team in the matter of 2 seasons. But let's get into the second season and hopefully even push PSG a little harder. You never know. Before we do get into the second season though, guys, if you are enjoying this rebuild so far, please do leave a like on the video. It helps the video get found and it means a lot. And please also, if you are enjoying it to the point where you want to see more from me, please do hit subscribe and turn on notifications. It's completely free. And this way you're going to get notified when I upload, when I live stream, when I do a community post of varied things, loads of stuff you can get involved with. But let's get into Season 2 and see how we play. So then, guys, that is going to be Season 2 simulated. And again, a reasonable transfer budget, £71 million, which is reasonable for this division, 100%. And obviously, you can do installments on top of that. We have also got 100% of transfer revenue is available to us. So again, any players that we do decide to offload, we are going to be getting 100% of their transfer value, which is a big incentive because sometimes if you find yourself in a Football Manager save and you've got 50%, sometimes 35%, you don't want to even sell some players that you want to sell because you know that you're not going to be getting hardly anything for them. That actually gets put back into signing players, and sometimes that completely reshapes how you make decisions. But let's get in to the season. Bam. Okay. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know what that little pause was for because I wasn't expecting to win the league. To be honest, we weren't too far behind. We were 9 points behind in terms of, you know, the division. PSG do win in that. I've noticed that Lyon have strengthened, obviously, because they're now up into 3rd place. The Champions League, again, something that I wasn't expecting to do that well in. Barcelona are a fantastic side, and, you know, we got quite unlucky. Obviously, that is the first knockout round, so we obviously did get out with the groups, which is decent for the first time being in there. This is something which remains to be quite of a disappointment. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna say it how it is. EA Goonkamp, Gwenkamp, I don't know how you say that. They finished 3rd in League 2. They are in League 2, and we're going out to them. So I don't know what happened there. Very embarrassing to go out like that. We're the 2nd best with 93 goals scored, 2nd best at conceding, 26 going in. Ben Yedder again getting top goal scorer. I believe he did last season. Hopefully I'm not wrong, otherwise my memory is like a goldfish. But if we go and look at the actual squad stats then, and hopefully they can explain, well, they won't explain this, but that is something which I'm not happy with. That is really disappointing. But goals then, we've got Ben Yedder with 27, Volland coming in with 25, Badu coming in with 16, Golovin with 12, then it drops off a little bit, but they're the main men that are going to be getting the goals. Obviously, is Volland actually topping Badu this season in terms of goals? Last season was the other way round. So that question does still have to be asked of, if I do bring in a striker, which one is going to be making way? And, you know, it's hard to get rid of Ben Yedder when he's in such prolific form. But at the end of the day, he is 32. The likes of Volland, again, is a player who has probably still got a couple of seasons in him. But it's that fact that I want to sign a young player when I can, a good striker, because eventually it will be Badu, and it probably will be whoever I bring in that then become the first two, because obviously these two haven't got forever to go. Golovin as well contributing quite well there with the match rating. Assists-wise, obviously we've got 16 from him, 16 from Diop as well, who is actually the backup sort of shadow striker come Cam, so fair play to him. The highest match rating, I think we discussed this before, is going to be someone who's played a lot of games, which will be this guy, which will be Bashil there. And then you got Golovin with a good match rating. Who are the worst performers then? Anyone that's played a lot of games and still not managed to find their feet? This guy's played 27. It's going to be Boudou. So again, not a great season, but a player that I do want to keep because although he's not, you wouldn't put him in the same brackets of a Sesko, a Demi, them real prolific sort of up-and-coming strikers. He is a good player and a player that I don't want to move on just for the sake of it. But this does ask me, where do I strengthen? And I think I can answer that question for you guys right now. And the thing is, we're not bad at, if you look at this here, we're the second best at conceding goals. So we're not conceding loads of goals either. So yeah, granted, if I was to bring in a real world-class centre-back or possibly full-backs, then probably, that could be an improvement. Goals scored, we're scoring goals. It's not really an issue. I think the key thing with this is we've got £70 million and I'm going to try and secure one of the best strikers we can for that money, because midfield, we're very good in midfield. We've got great players, young players as well. So midfield, I don't really plan on strengthening. Strikers, that's what I'm going to go for, guys. I'm going to try and go for one big striker. If I can't get that big striker, I'll probably try and get at least a striker who is still very, very good, and then potentially look to bring in another fullback that could push one of the first teamers out. Sorry, but other than that, that's pretty much all I can talk about this season. I mean, overall as a whole, it's not a bad season, but it's just this is really disappointing. In the how did we lose it? This could change it. For some pens, it's still going to be annoying, but let's have a little look. Right, why am I being blind? See, this is what I mean. These are the teams that you play. You play some real bad teams. 10-1, 2-0. And we lost on pens. Of course we did. We lost on pens. Can we see the stats? I mean, yeah, it doesn't make it better because the stats were... They weren't... We didn't batter them at all, did we? So, I mean, overall, that part of the season is very, very annoying. But let's get into the third transfer window and see who we can bring in. And hopefully, this season, get a bit closer to PSG. If not, knock them off their perch. So then, guys, this is going to be season 3 of the transfers. And we're going to kick things off with a little bit of free business. No money spent, but this guy, a scout brought to me, and he's 15, so he's not going to be in the plans just yet. But have a little look at this guy. He's on the free, and the potential's there, that is for certain. Obviously, he prefers to play a little bit more advanced, but his potential looks very, very good. And he's already valued at 25 to 37 million, so even if he doesn't develop, I could easily sell him just for a little bit of free money, to be honest with you. It's a bad way of looking at youngsters, but when he's on the market for free, he's only on £60 a week. I'm 100% taking him. Now, moving on then to what are going to be the big signings. Now, the striker was a bit interesting. Liverpool fans would look away. Nunes, obviously the player that recently did go to Liverpool, actually finds himself at Borussia Dortmund. So he must have had a real rough time at Liverpool because the database is up to date. He was at Liverpool, but obviously he's gone to Dortmund. Dortmund don't want him, so I've taken him for 35.5 million. Nothing wrong with him. He's a great player, only 24 years old, decent finishing, pretty quick as well, very tall as well for a striker. Worth double what we paid for him, I'd say, easily. Fairly determined, and he's 24, so he's got years in him. And he is definitely going to be one of the strikers that can replace Ben Yedder or Volland. And that gives Boudou a chance to really cement that first team slot for when they do go. If not, I've still got, a few seasons to bring in a proper, really expensive, pronounced striker. But for 35 million to get Nunes, I'm biting the hand off. I'm taking it. And I did. We then went and we decided to bring in what is going to be the first team guaranteed right back for the rest of this save. And that is going to be a player that I don't typically use too much on this game, but that is Max Aarons. He did cost a sweet bit of money, 48 million, because he is obviously a very, very, he's just great potential. He's young, he's only 23, and he was having a good time at Norwich before we signed him. He is very good tackling, reasonably quick as well. Not the tallest, but he's a fullback. So it's not the end of the world when it comes to that. He's not going to be forced into winning loads of headers, and he's valued, look at the value. I mean, he's valued arguably 100 million above what we paid for him. So, I mean, I didn't actually think that was too bad of a deal. And obviously, he goes right into our team. So, when you're signing someone that's guaranteed first team, you don't mind spending sort of 40, 50 million on a fullback. Moving on then to some of the players that went out. We had a lot of people leave on the free. Now, some of these were people that weren't even in the first team. So they're not too much of a loss, to be honest with you. We do actually end up selling the likes of Aguilar there, who the only reason why we sold him was because we did bring in Max Aarons, and obviously we've already got Estevez at right back, who is going to be the backup, so we got rid of him. We then also, Ranieri does go because he didn't want a new contract, so he went on the free to Chambly. And now this guy, this is a perfect example of why, if you guys are playing in these divisions, pay attention to the amount of non-EU players you have, because I brought in Nunes, which obviously it pushed me up to 5, and you're only allowed 4. So I had to offload one of the guys, and luckily we've now got 2 right backs anyway. So I offloaded Vanderson to Chua for 7 million. He's not even that bad, but he's not good enough to use one of them, non-EU slots up, because I'm going to show you the team now. If you look in this, so we've got the likes of Haidara and McKennie, for example. Are non-European. Obviously, McKennie, USA. Haidara is from... whatever is that? Mali? Somalia? I don't know where that is. Okay. And Nunes, who obviously from Uruguay. So, I mean, that's 3. I'm trying to figure out who the other guy is. Definitely someone. Could be this guy. Brazilian, who is our backup sort of midfielder. So that is why I had to pick between him and the right back. And I picked the midfielder because that is where we need a bit more depth. But this is going to be our first team then, and don't you think that's a good team? Because, I mean, this is outrageous. We've obviously got Huracan in goal, Aarons, Kalou, Badashio. By the way, these 2 at the back, what a partnership that is. Both French, both young, great potential on both of them. Vina at left back, Fofana, McKennie, Haidara, Golovin, Ben Yedder, and Nunes. Now, that team should have a very good season, and this team could be the one which does knock PSG off the perch. We weren't too far off last season, and we've strengthened at the back, and we've strengthened up top. So, overall, I would say, as a, not as a better man, but if anyone is a better man, I should put a little cheeky fiver on us to win the title, because you never know. At the end of the day, this is a very good team now, and I feel like each season is strengthening. And we've still got 3 seasons to play. We've got the one that we're now doing, then we've got 2 more windows. So I mean, definitely one of them seasons we have to beat PSG, but hopefully it will be this one. But let's get into it and hopefully come home the French champions. So then, guys, that is going to be another season simulated, and I'm excited to see how we done this season, because I do think we strengthened very well. We've been given less money, which is always never a good sign, but it could just be that the fact that obviously the owners can't keep backing as much as they have been giving us. Obviously, in a lot of the rebuilds we do, after you have like one really big season, then you do get a real big cash injection. But this has been, we've always had a good amount of money to spend, but we've not sort of had, like in Barcelona, for example, we had a lot of money to spend, but we're still getting decent amounts. But let's have a little look then. Get in. There we go. Well, I did say it would take about 3 seasons at the start, I believe. Or I did use the words, I don't think I'll win it in 3 seasons. But we managed to beat PSG in the French League for the first time in our 3rd season, which is really, really impressive, guys, because obviously there's something which I've not done recently. PSG, although they did slip up, I think it was last year or the year before, like PSG are predominantly dominant, aren't they? But Monaco, I brought them back. We're now the French champions, and also we won 2 things in France, because we won the Coupe de France against Bordeaux in the final. Very disappointing against Manchester United in the first knockout round, but I'm going to be honest, I don't want to use this as an excuse, but we've had Barcelona and Manchester United in the knockouts in the first round, so it is quite difficult. One thing I'm going to point out right off the bat, we now rank best for goals scored and goals conceded, which is probably why we managed to push over the edge and just get that title in our hands. It's actually Volland who actually gets 39 goals, so fair play to him. Let's do goals then. So, where is Nunes? 15, no, not 14. Not too bad for his first season. You got Badou there with 15. You got Volland with 39. Golovin with 20. The centre-half coming up with 15. Diop coming up with 15. And Minamino is up with 6. Nothing too special for Minamino. But again, nothing too bad either. It's not, the end of the world. Assists, we've got 24 coming from Diop. Did he play quite a few games then? He did play quite a few games, so fair play to him. He plays sort of a backup to Golovin, but obviously played a bit more. Max Aarons in his first season, 19 assists. Now that is world class from him. Golovin with 10. Max Aarons though, fair play to him. Highest match rating is going to be going to, it will be Badashili again, who I believe has got that a couple times now. A very, very consistent player, that is for certain. We then have Diop coming in with a very good match rating as well. We've got a lot of high sevens. The worst performer, he can't. I mean, it's 34 times as a sub. I'm not going to judge him too much. This guy here he's played quite a lot. It's going to be Vina, our left back. Again, fullbacks and centre backs sometimes don't get the highest match rating, but obviously everyone above him has had a really good season. And I'm not going to be angry at anyone individually because we have done very well. And in terms of strengthening the team now, I'm going to take some time and look because I don't know whether it's worth seeing about. I mean, Volland I'm going to keep for now because I mean, he's just scored 40 goals. But obviously, before we do finish this save, I always like to leave this team in a position where I feel like if, say, for an example's sake, someone wants to pick up this save, you'd have a really good squad to use. And I like to leave them in the best scenario possible. So at some point, Volland will be moved on, but it's not going to be in the 4th season because he's just scored 39 goals. You can't sell someone with that amount of goals. So I'm going to see who I can bring in. It could be a world-class left-back, not just because he had one bad season, but it could be the fact of switching the left-backs around. I'm going to see where we can spend a bit of money because at the end of the day, although we have just won everything we can in France, the team's clearly not strong enough to compete in the Champions League just yet, which isn't a bad thing. Just means it needs a little bit of investment. So let's get into the transfer window and see what we can do. Before we do get into the transfer window though, guys, if you are enjoying the video as much as I am definitely making it, because this is going really well, please do leave a like on the video and drop a comment below of what you think of the content on the channel. And if you do enjoy what you see, please do hit subscribe and turn on notifications. But let's get in to the transfer window in the 4th season. So then, guys, season 4 of the transfers has been done. And we've spent big again just because I want to keep pushing forward and try and replicate winning the league again, but also try and improve in that Champions League because that's one thing which we're not doing great at. So we've spent 164 million. Obviously, a bit of it is in installments. The first player we bring in is obviously a player which we should be familiar with from Barcelona, not originally, but from Barcelona on this save. 58 million is Ibrahima Diallo. Now, he's a player that can play the anchor role reasonably well. He can also play a lot of positions, as you can see here, and he's very versatile. And that's why I brought him in, because he was on the market and he's not, you know, a world-class player, because believe it or not, I didn't think I was going to be able to afford him. But I tried to go in for the likes of Bellingham. I'm going to be honest. I get him a lot, but I tried to get him. He didn't want to join. And I think until we make an account of ourselves in the Champions League, that might put a lot of players off. So I brought this guy in who will be starting in the anchor position. And I don't mind spending that type of money when you bring in the likes of someone who will slot right into the first team. He's only 25 as well. Very good attributes all well round. Great stamina, good work rate, good tackling. So he suits the anchor role down to a T. The next player we bring in is going to be a left back. And we bring in a world-class left back from Manchester City for 69 million. With Window, I think that's how you say that. Again, a fantastic player. Really, really good. 24 years old, very good tackling, reasonably quick as well. Not the tallest, but again, same as Max Aarons. He's not going to be brought into many aerial duels, so it doesn't really matter. He's actually got no sort of faults here either, so he is genuinely a very, very good player. And although he did cost us a lot, I'm a believer that if you want the best of the best, like in any position, but fullbacks, if you really want to go out there, you have to spend money on fullbacks. They play such a big part in the modern game, fullbacks. As you know, you see Pep spends a lot of money on fullbacks. And for me, fullback is a very, very, very good position and a very important position, especially when you're playing a narrow formation, because wingbacks are your sort of main width. As you can see, Max Aarons last season, I believe, got 19 assists. So when you spend money on fullbacks, you do get rewarded for it, especially when you play narrow systems. And then the last player we bring in is Pedro Gonçalves, or however you say that, from Sporting for 45 million. And he is a shadow striker with the ability to grow. And it's going to be him. And also, I've forgotten his name. We'll have a look after this. It is Golovin. It's going to be him and Golovin sort of fighting it out. They're a similar age, but we didn't really have a really, really good backup. And Golovin did get injured a bit last season, so I needed that backup. And this guy from Sporting is a player I've used before, very familiar with him, and he's really, really good. Obviously, he's got great finishing even for a shadow striker, great technique as well, and everything about him. He doesn't really, you know, he's not one of the world's best, but he will do a job. And he is a very, very good player. And like I said, we're still at the point in the club, just because we've won one title, we still are struggling to attract some of the real big players. So your likes of, example, Barella didn't want to join, Bellingham didn't want to join. These big players, sometimes you need to, really make an account of yourself. And we've only won one league title and a French trophy, so it's all about improving, trying to possibly get to the quarters, even semis of the Champions League. But if we go in, we also, by the way, sorry, I won't leave that out. Lecomte went on the free to PSG. We lost a few other people here on the free. Ben Yedder, I did decide to sell because he didn't want a contract extension, and he is 33. And obviously it was Volland that really got majority of the goals. But if we put in the best 11, that is instantly going to, and I thought it would, it's actually decided to put, that makes sense, to be honest with you, because obviously Haidara then can be some more of a player who can play here and in the box-to-box. I really like how that team lays out, actually. So you've got, obviously, the same goalkeeper. We've got Aarons. And look at these, by the way, at the back. Look how good this guy is. 23, by the way. And Kalou, 24. We are sorted. This back line is probably one of the best back lines put together. I mean, it is so young. It's so talented. Experience, everything. It's just really good. Then got Diallo in midfield with McKennie, who's been very good as well. And then we've also got Golovin now actually taking over the Metzala, which is quite interesting because it gives us a chance to play Goncalves there to see if he does do well, or possibly even switch him. And also, I don't know why I put Badou up there. It should be the likes of Nunes and Volland. But this is now telling me one thing, okay? Despite how this season goes, I've instantly got in my head, the last transfer window, I think we are going to have to go out and not dump it all, but dump majority possibly into bringing in a full-on world-class striker, because obviously we've got Nunes, who is 3-star ability, who is still very good, but he had an okay season. Definitely a good striker to have at the club. We've got Volland, who obviously is very good, but he is 31, and then we've got the likes of Badou on the bench, and also Minamino. So we're still missing that full-on world-class sort of 4-star and above ability world beater. But to do that, we're going to have to carry on winning stuff to even attract them. So let's get into Season 4 and hopefully win the league, win the French Cup, and if it's not too much to ask, get past the first knockout in the Champions League. So we've just completed Season 4 and the same thing's happened. We managed to win the league, which is always good, but unfortunately we lost to PSG here, which is obviously the pre-season sort of French trophy. But again, not again because we won it last year, but we also lost to PSG again in the semi-finals. It's just like, we can beat PSG in the league, but when it comes to the cups, we always bottle it. I really don't understand that. As for Champions League, I don't know why it's not showing here, but unfortunately the curse carries on. As you can see here, Champions League, first knockout round, second leg. So we go in the first round again, and that is a real issue because we're winning the title, which is great, but we're not doing well in European football. That's something that we've got to work on. And luckily, we did get a bit more than this, I'm going to say. I've already made a sign-in, which I'm going to show you in the next season transfers. But we're going to have to spend big to try and counter that, because it would be really annoying to play 5 seasons and dominate, because we are dominating French football now. We won it back-to-back. If we can do that 3 times, that'll be a massive accomplishment. But if we can do somewhat decent in the Champions League, so I'm talking semi-final upwards, that would be a real icing on the cake. As well as winning this trophy again, I feel would be a very successful 5 years. But in terms of stats, I mean, we're the best at scoring goals, best at conceding as well. Only 13 conceded and 97 scored, which is really good. It's actually Badou. They've got 25 goals, which is what it sort of told me that I do need to strengthen that striker even more and bring in a pre-built world-class striker. But if we go into the squad then, 25 goals coming from Badou, 24 for Nunes, so not too far behind, and Volland there with 22, a player which I think this is going to be the season where I do offload him, because I have got a fantastic striker coming in, which I will show you shortly. I'm not going to spoil it now. We've also got the new man contributing quite well with 15 goals. In terms of assists, again, no real standout. Max Aaron's very high up there as well as Window, who's actually just come in. So it shows that you spend money on fullbacks, guys, you do get rewarded. They're contributing very well with the assists, actually nearly getting joint top assister. Golovin as well contributing quite nicely there as well. Nunes contributing as well, very well there as well. But in terms of match rating, who had the stinker then? 37 games here, 7.18. Pedro, yeah, it's not great. I didn't want to talk about him too much, but he's definitely not landed on his feet as much as what he could have done. I've used him in other saves and he's instantly just been ridiculous. But we are going to try and strengthen somehow. We've already got a very strong team, but we are going to try and strengthen somehow with this team by bringing in another striker who is going to be, I know who it is because I've signed him, but it's going to be a complete world-class striker, just making sure you can't see him down here, and possibly bring in another midfielder, because Kenny is great, but he's obviously, you know, he's 3-star ability, so he is decent. But if we're on about, you know, winning titles and stuff like that, we possibly might try and bring in a world-class midfielder, because then these players that already are very good are only going to get dropped to the bench. So we're going to have a very, very good bench. So it doesn't hurt, you know, upgrading what you've got already. But let's get into season 5 of the transfers and hopefully bring in possibly 2 to 3 players. So this is going to be the last transfer window, and we have spent big purely because we want to try and do something in the Champions League. And our squad was strong, but it wasn't strong enough, clearly, because we never seem to get past the first knockouts. And I wanted, if I can, I'd like to try and finish this entire rebuild, because it has gone really well. We've turned Monaco into the best French team in France. Obviously, they're winning consistently now, especially if we win 3 out of 3. Well, the last 3, that is. But it would be really good to at least get to a semi of the Champions League, you know, just to cement it. So we bring in a Seamhem from Napoli. Both signings, by the way, coming from Italy, so we can potentially 2 Champions League teams there as well, which is very good. Obviously, we know this guy. If you watch the live streams, he's an absolute... He's just really good in my United save as well. So in terms of strikers, he's one of the best you can get in the game. And hopefully this guy is going to be the guy that takes us over the edge, past the first knockout stage, into the semis, or possibly by some miracle winning it. You never know. We've got 1 more season to try and do it. He's by far the best striker we have at the club, and that is why he's going to instantly get into the first team. We then go over to Milan, AC Milan, that is not in Milan, and we get Tonali for 105 million. Not actually too bad, to be honest. He's worth a lot more than what we paid for him. He's only 25, and he's going to instantly... I know we recently signed a person to play the anchor role, but this guy wasn't available then. He now is available, and he'll instantly get into the team. He's really, really good. Great tackling. Everything else is really balanced. And like I said, he's still only 25, so loads of room to grow. And it's going to be a 4-star ability in the anchor role, which is definitely an improvement on what we've got. We do unfortunately lose Volland, who goes on the free. We lose Aku, who goes on the free. We sell Maripan because he doesn't get registered anyway. And also Jordan Gomez goes for a very small fee. If we go to the tactics page now and we go pick without restriction, best 11, he's instantly going to get in there. Asimhem alongside of Badu. He for some reason gets ahead of Nunes. I would personally do that and have Nunes there. We then have Tonali. Actually, what I'm going to do is, because McKennie has been good, I'm going to play it like this. So we're going to have the original keeper, Aarons, Kalou, Badashile there, Wendell, Tonali, McKennie, Golovin, Goncalves. I might even try that. I'm going to try that because he didn't exactly have the best season at Shadow Striker, whereas Golovin originally was playing well. Then Nunes and Asimhem, and obviously the bench is just from strength to strength. Get Haidara on there as well. They're on holiday at the moment, so that's why they're red. But that team is more than capable of winning the French League, a French Cup, and definitely should make an account of themselves in the Champions League. I don't know what it is with French teams. They seem to always bottle it in the Champions League. But hopefully we can finish off this last season with another league title, another French trophy, and hopefully at least get into the semi-finals of the Champions League. But let's get into season 5 and hopefully, as I said, just improve a little bit when it comes to European football. So that is going to be the final season simulated. And if we were to continue this, obviously we're not, that is the last one, but we would have 104 million to spend. So overall, they've been reasonably nice when it comes to investing money. There was a couple of seasons which was a lot lower, but the last 2 especially have been really good to us. But let's have a little look and see how we done. So, okay, there's a lot of positives here, despite, you know, not winning the Champions League. But let's start off with what we know. So we won this, I was about to say the Premier League, but we won the French League again. So that is 3 times back to back to back to back. So I'd say that we've definitely made ourselves the most dominant team in France. We also managed to win the pre-season trophy against PSG, and also won the Coupe de France against PSG as well. So we've also managed to fix 2 things here. We've managed to progress in the Champions League to the semi-finals against Man City, who are a difficult team. And we also managed to beat PSG directly in the French trophies. We're the best for scoring goals, best at conceding goals, only conceding 19. 0 red cards this season as well, which is an improvement. Asimhem instantly comes in and gets 54 goals in 1 season. And that is the difference between having them strikers who are good to the strikers that are world class. They push you above and beyond, and that is why he's worth the money he is. Also, Windle there coming in with 20 assists, which is very good because he's also paying off his transfer fee, proving that when you do invest highly in fullbacks, you get results. But let's do what we usually do. We're going to go over to the squad, have a look at the goals. So obviously we've got Asimhem with 54, Nunes with 36, 17 for Goncalves as well, and 14 from Badou. So these two up top are looking to be, well, it's a brilliant strike force, isn't it? I mean, you've got two very, very good players. Also, not exactly old, pretty much approaching their prime. So a very, very good few years that Monaco have got coming their way. Assists, we've got Windle with 20. We've got Tonali contributing a lot, considering he's an anchor player with 17, 15 for Golovin. We've got 14 for Aarons as well. So both fullbacks contributing, Asimhem coming in as well, and also Diop and Nunes contributing very highly with that. But no, the team that we've left them with is very, very good. Like, we're going to have a look at it now, and it is a really good team. Obviously, starting off, we've got Huracan in goal. We've got Aarons, Kalou, Bardashil, Windle, Tonali, McKennie, Goncalves, Golovin, Asimhem, Nunes. But we look to the bench, and the only position I'd say that we could definitely have strengthened better would be a backup goalkeeper. But if you were to play this, Monaco would have 104. Was it 104? 104 million to spend. So a backup goalkeeper isn't the best by any means, but you could definitely go out and buy yourself a better backup goalkeeper. But on the bench, you've got the likes of Dina, Haidara, Badou, Jacobs, Diop, Minamino, Diassi, Fofana, Marcin, Douara, Diallo, Estevez. We've got a very, very decent bench as well. And also, it's one of them things where, like, I always like to leave the club in a good financial status, which hopefully we have. We left them in a rich status, 104 million to spend. So they could go out. Say if a manager come in now, they could go out and strengthen this squad even more, strengthen the bench a little bit, and really progress on with the team. So I've definitely upgraded this squad. Obviously, if we look at the age, we've got a lot of young players in here. The oldest player we have is actually 31, being Minamino. We've got a lot of really good players around the 25 to 30 mark in that sort of area. So a few good years coming up for Monaco. And I'm sure, to be honest, if we would have played probably 1 or 2 more seasons, we could have won the Champions League. But obviously, I do like to keep it in 5-year windows, because then, you know, every save is the same. We can see exactly how far we can take the club. But overall, we've taken Monaco, a team that aren't known for winning the French league at all, especially in recent years, to being treble winners, you know, over and over and over, and also making a very good account in French trophies, and also finalising it in the semi-finals of the Champions League. So very good there. So these are the notable things we've done for the club. So in the second, it'll be, what would that be, the third season in, we were the obviously the French trophy winners, the league winners again, and this is where you'll see here, we managed to win the league 3 times on the bounce, which is very impressive. And also, obviously, there we win the pre-season. Is it the Trophées de Champions? Trophies to, I don't know how to say that. We managed to win that as well. So, overall, I'd say very successful. In 5 seasons, we've won the league 3 times back-to-back, won the French trophy twice, and a pre-season trophy. So a very, very good account of ourselves in pretty much everything to do with French football, and also a reasonable account of ourselves when it comes to European football. Because to be honest, especially the first couple of seasons, even getting out of the groups was an accomplishment, especially the first season, because we didn't strengthen that much. But overall, I'm very happy with how this 5 years have gone. I think it could have gone better, obviously, when it comes to European sort of placements. But to be honest, the first 3 seasons, we didn't really have the best of best teams. We had a decent team, not an amazing team. And to win the Champions League, you need an amazing team at the end of the day. But that is going to be it for today, guys. If you have enjoyed the video, please do leave the video a like. Be sure to comment below as well for a team that you want to see rebuilded by myself. I've got a few in the pipeline, but after that, I am taking suggestions. And if you enjoyed the video to the point where you want to see more from me, please do subscribe to the channel as well and turn on notifications. The channel is doing really well at the moment. There's tons of more content coming out. There's going to be more live streams, more rebuilds, more tactics, experiments, and much more. And I'll see you in the next one.